it's Danielle
and Leah
from Resilient Stories.
Back again with another one of our author interviews. Today we are talking to Krista Lindquist, author of one of our wonderful articles, The Birth and Deaths That Saved Me, A Healing Journey. I just absolutely love this story. Krista, thank you so much for being with us today.
I cried reading it.
In her car, like sobbed.
I was in the car. Was I at yoga?
We were going to yoga. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you both so much for having me. Just so magical that we're able to cross paths. It's such an honor to be able to contribute to the beautiful collection and movement that you have going with Resilient Stories. And yes, mine is certainly one of resiliency and dealing with grief and loss and death. And, you know, it can bring us to tears, right? That raw human emotion. But that's what brings us all together and connects us and reminds us that we're not alone and we're never alone on this journey, no matter what we're going through. So thank you for bringing us all together and healing together.
You're absolutely. Thank you. All right, let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Danielle's got our first question.
Okay, so your story starts with heartbreak, and then it just escalates through multiple layers of trauma, particularly with Jake and Cody's tragic accidents. So how did these early experiences shape your understanding of grief and resilience, which you just mentioned, and how do you approach these topics in what you currently do for work?
Yes, great question. So back then, as a lost and reckless 16 and 17-year-old, those accidents were tremendously rude awakenings, to say the least. By that age, I was vaguely familiar with tragedy, illness, and loss of distant family members, but I had certainly never once ever thought about the life-changing impact of paralysis before. It was just earth-shattering. So at 16 before then, I've got to admit that I did think I was invincible, maybe more invisible, and that, front page newspaper trauma could never happen to me. So like I said, my life literally becoming front page newspaper trauma was a very rude awakening that for many years, it just left me stricken with really intense anger and guilt. And it took me many years, perhaps even until this day, to really feel a grasp of how grief can be handled gracefully, or to even recognize just how much being thrown straight into the fire as I was back then truly developed my inner resilience. So at the time, I was just crawling through the motions, facing what I had no choice but to face. Though I knew how many times I had wanted to give up, I didn't really realize yet that each day I chose to stay on this earth and face my circumstances, I was actually building immense strength that would lead me not only through the grief of those accidents, but through so many other challenges and opportunities and pure miracles that laid ahead of me. So in a nutshell, the last 17 years since those tragedies has been a long personal evolution that eventually softened that teenage, depression, rage, and anger. And through the blessings and the signs that Cody and other past loved ones have surprised me with, I was able to see that no matter how terrible your circumstances can ever be, there is always a gift hidden underneath it all. There will always be a light at the end of the tunnel of darkness if you're willing to look for it. And that's what I get to do for my clients today. I get to help them see the gifts they receive from their greatest pain and struggles, to connect deeply with the love that of their loved ones that have passed and keep it alive in spirit, and to help them know and to love and to live their most heart-fulfilling, authentic truth. And I couldn't ask for anything better now.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that uplifting message.
Yeah.
I needed that today.
Right.
So, Krista, the birth of your daughter, Jalen, marked a significant point in your life. It coincided with a time that could have been, that was essentially taking you down a really dark path at first. And so, can you share how becoming a mother influenced your spiritual healing journey, but also your sort of perspective on divine timing?
Yes, absolutely. So my daughter Jalen's birth was actually my first totally undeniable experience of divine timing. Though initially my pregnancy appeared to be the answer to how could things possibly get worse, I could not deny the wild coincidence of my due date. That actually was her birth date. So that's also a rare fact. She was born on her due date. That was 2 days before the anniversary of the car accident that took Cody's life. And it was also 2 days before the date I had secretly chosen to end my own life and suffering. It gives me the chills as I say it, and it always does. So the beginning of Jalen's life was literally the beginning of my new life. And instead of committing suicide on that first accident anniversary, I brought home my child. So if that isn't a divine intervention, I honestly do not know what is.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
even though I was mostly alone and feeling sickly unstable with Jalen's father throughout my pregnancy, the experience actually, I would say, sparked my spiritual journey, because I immediately felt this comforting connection with this unknown life that was growing inside of me. And suddenly, as once super selfishly, focused on my own world and difficulties, and all the teenage drama that, fills, most of our high school experience anyways, without the tragedy, I was still deeply connected. I was suddenly deeply connected and literally undetachable to this other life. It suddenly wasn't just me anymore. It was me and, this unknown being. And I just could not deny, the physical connection of the life inside me and that bond with this unborn life that I just could instinctively knew this life was coming to stop me from ending my own life. And that gave me the first real sense of a connection to God, and even that there is a God, right? I was certainly questioning that through the devastating, loss that I had just gone through. And it was so strong and powerful that I could not deny that I was connected to a higher power that knows far greater than I do. And once I felt that, it sparked this curiosity that I had to continue exploring down this path and see what else was out there that apparently I had been missing the whole time. So what did I find? I first found yoga, which I found to be my personal bridge through the physical to the non-physical. And that led to understanding my breath work, my breathing, deeper form of meditation, energy healing like Reiki, even the healing vibrations of sound. And I have no doubt that each step of this journey and the timing of the discovery of each new healing modality I stumbled upon was all of it was nothing short of divine. I always say, all timing is divine timing. Yeah. It truly is.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. All
like
timing is divine timing.
I like that. I feel like we need to quote that in something.
I do think we need to quote that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
please share it.
So you just mentioned a few of the various healing modalities that you use, and you have some spiritual practices too that you've learned over the years. Which of these practices do you find most effective for someone who would be starting their healing journey, and how has it personally transformed your approach to life's challenges?
Yes, another great question. To this day, my answer is really simple. I always say that it always starts with the breath, our breath, just our breath, one deep breath. Through every modality I've studied and trained with, from yoga to meditation to Reiki and the sound healing, the foundation for optimal health I always begins with laying down that foundation of breath, conscious breath work, deep, slow, healing breathing. Breathing is such an automatic process that we don't have to think about it, but that's our problem. Because we live in a world where we are constantly being distracted and pulled in a million different directions. And we often don't have time to even think about breathing. My clients tell me that all the time. Have you been breathing slowly? Oh gosh, I haven't thought about it all day. And that's what I do. I tell you, my clients work with me to remind them to breathe and to stay hydrated. The two most simple things that we need, but it is the foundation for everything else. So yeah, when we're living in this crazy, multitasking, pulled in every which way, what happens to our breath? It stays short and shallow, it's fast, it's tense, and it keeps the body stuck in the fight or flight state. And that literally keeps us unable to rest, to recover, or heal any aspect of ourself, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. So for me, unfortunately, it took the final shock of my father's fatal heart attack when I was 25 for me to recognize how short and shallowly I had been breathing for most of my life, especially through my teenage years. And I was just forced to ask myself, am I going to continue anxiously racing and overworking myself to the same fate as my father, who was only 58? Or am I going to slow down now, right now, and make sure that that never happens to any more of my family members? So to this day, it still breaks my heart, honestly, that I learned about yoga and breath work too late to be able to help my dad heal his overworked heart. But his love, I feel it right now too. I feel his love and his light shine over me every day, and with each deep breath I take and that I get to share with others. And I'll take what I can get. So by starting with the breath and consciously choosing to keep trying to let myself rest and breathe deeply and slowly, I've literally been able to transform my entire being over the last decade. And by practicing and teaching conscious breath work, I was finally able to let go of all the stress, the tension, the anger, the guilt, the resentment that had my mind and body locked for so long, and to finally settle into the most healthy, strong, and happy version of myself now that I never knew that I could be. I can honestly say I'm at my absolute healthiest right now. So for anyone new to their healing journey, I always say all it really takes is just one slow, deep breath at a time.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I agree with that totally. So Krista, in your memoir, The Daisy Diaries, you share intensely personal stories of dealing with unexpected trauma from past relationships. Can you talk a little bit about how writing the memoir served as a form of healing for you and what you hope that the readers will take away from it?
Yes, definitely. Another great question. I'm glad you asked this because let me tell you, the writing process was such a surprisingly cathartic experience for me. And the more I wrote, the more memories I recalled, and the more content I realized I had to write and include. So there's a lot more in the story than I had originally planned on including. For example, probably the best example is the chapter where I meet the medium and communicated with Cody and my spirit guides for the first time. When I wrote that chapter, I actually used my handwritten notes from that experience that I have kept all of these years. So until I came across it in my notes, I had totally dismissed the theme and my spirit guide's warning of the dangerous men on my path. And once I got to that part, I was like, my mind was blown and I knew, I have to include this. It just, a huge light bulb went on. And though it also made me really queasy to think about writing such personal and regrettable relationship details, I knew that I absolutely had to. For myself and for every other human who has ever been used, abused, and hurt by any dangerous men or women in their own lives. And to remind us all that we are all so perfectly imperfect. And no matter how painful or shameful any relationship experience can be, once again, there's always a gift. Usually, of strength and clarity in what we don't want to experience, but it's still more clarity in what we do want. And those gifts are hidden within all of those experiences. But again, only if we're willing to look for them and to see them. So I couldn't deny how much I learned about myself and especially my self-worth through each and every one of those dangerous men on my path. And honestly, I've come to find a lot of joy and fulfillment in sharing these trials and failures as a warning to other beautiful, brilliant women and men of any age to choose to love themselves first, to put themselves first, and to not settle for anything less than they truly deserve. And what blows my mind now, this is a fun little nugget, is that I can honestly see, as I look back through all of the dangerous men, I can honestly see tiny little glimpses of my current partner, AKA Montana Man, in every one of them. And now, instead of feeling shame or embarrassment or any of that for falling for, all the tricks of these dangerous men, I can see that through the whole journey, I was looking for my Montana Man the whole time, finding glimpses of him in other people. I mean, even some physical, resemblances is kind of bizarre how many there are. There's definitely a theme. And God bless it. Thank you for the spiritual connection that Cody gave me at such a young age, the spark of seeing through the eyes of the soul and who I was when I didn't know myself. I knew after that to not stop searching until I found the man that I felt that all with. And it took one hell of a journey, 13 years of parenting by myself and an RV adventure all around the country to find him. But it was worth every minute of the wait to enjoy the truly unconditional love and trust and safety that we share with each other now. So for anyone else out there struggling and failing with relationships, I say, hang in there. You are getting closer and closer to your own Montana man or woman. And all it takes is truly loving yourself from the inside out, and every single experience of your journey that has shaped who you are now.
Yeah.
So my readers have already taken away exactly what I had hoped for them, and it still brings tears. I do tear up every single time I cross paths or get a new message from a new reader who thanks me for going there, for sharing all the dirty details and just being so raw and open and honest about those. I even had a wonderful conversation with my mom about that topic when she read the book for the first time. Yes, wow. Powerful. And that gives me the chills saying it too. Being able to make this connection, it feels very vulnerable, but strong and safe. I can feel, the masks, the shields, of protection falling away from the women that I've been able to share these conversations with. And, as reading and admiring my story for them helped them healing and learn to admire the darkest parts of their own stories. And that is exactly what I wrote it for. So I told myself in writing it, if I can help one person, just one person, feel better, to love themselves, to heal, to make better choices, to learn to love themselves, to have faith in the life ahead of them, then my job is done. And it was done the day the book came out. And I just feel so blessed.
That is beautiful. Krista Lindquist, thank you so much for being here and talking with us and sharing all these wonderful insights. You guys, the Daisy Diaries, if you haven't read it, the book is fabulous. And go to the website and read her article that she wrote for Resilient Stories. It's so beautiful and it's so inspiring.
And we'll have both links.
The link for both of those things will be in the show notes below. So leave comments and Krista can see them and get back to you if you have questions and all that good stuff. So we just thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your wisdom and
beautiful answers. I know you said our questions were great, but your answers
were great. Yeah, it was really
wonderful. No, thank you again so much for having me. This was wonderful. I love having these conversations, and you asked great questions. So thank you for going there and asking it and opening up these conversations and helping others heal and inspire and love ourselves. So again, thank you for putting this together. It's such an honor to know both of you now. And yes, thank you so much. Take care to everybody listening. I will definitely stay tuned to comments and try to respond and connect with anybody that wants to.
Wonderful. Thank you, Krista. Bye, everybody.
Thank
We'll see you next time.
Bye.